Ben Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And for my contribution to this debate, I'm going to talk about support for refugees, and it's always a great pleasure to follow the honourable member opposite for Rotherham and develop on some of her points that she made so powerfully about the humanitarian response, which I'm going to talk to about the local response. And it's somewhat incredible to believe that it's been almost this entire year that we've watched the horrors unfolding in Ukraine, unleashed by Putin, and this absolutely awful war and senseless bloodshed and violence. And what we've seen in my community is the incredible response from all our constituents across the country, and particularly so in Runnymede and Weybridge, where we have opened up our hearts and our homes to the plight of refugees. And I think that's something quite special, because I think there's nothing perhaps more personal in terms of response and support that so many people are given, opening up their own homes to house and support refugees from Ukraine. I think it's something that we should be very proud of. We've got, alongside the big stuff, the incredible international leadership that we've shown in terms of sanctions, in terms of bringing forward a coalition to support the Ukrainians in terms of military technology and kit and training. I think the domestic, rather, should I say small stuff, but necessarily somewhat more, most powerful support I think we've given is to open up our homes in support of refugees. And I want to give a huge thank you to everyone in my constituency who's done that. I'm sure many members equally have thanked their constituents and across the country in terms of support that's been given.
But my honourable friend give way.
Of course.
Well, thank you. I thank my honourable friend for giving way on this point. Just to echo his comments, in Watford we've had an incredible outburst of love and care for Ukrainian people who are over here. In particular, I just wanted to mention yesterday in St Mary's Church, as part of Remembrance, we had a lady from the group there, also supported by Luther Blissett, the Watford footballer and legend, England legend, and his partner Lauren, where the lady gave this beautiful Ukrainian poem at St Mary's Church from the pulpit, and it was just an incredible moment to bring home the loss that she has being here of her family back home, but also the incredible strength that those people are showing by being here and supporting from afar. So I just wanted to echo those points. Thank you.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for Watford for his intervention, and it builds on the points that I was about to make in terms of paying tribute to particular individuals and groups. Now, it's always very invidious to do this because there's so many people to single out, so many groups to thank in terms of support doing, but I just want to raise just 4 areas of my constituency which I think deserve particular special attention in amongst the work that so many individuals and community groups are doing. One is the Revive Cafe in Chertsey, which has a coffee morning for refugees. One of the key players in this is a lady called Lizzie Wayland, who's a member of the Beacon Church, in which this cafe is hosted, and they give incredible support to people locally. I also want to draw the House's attention to Lesia Scoli and Councillor Trusood, who set up Weybridge Friends of Ukraine, who've been again pivotal in leading support in Weybridge, alongside the Elmbridge CAN and the Weybridge Community Hub. We also have a lady called Alina Melnik, who is a refugee herself from Ukraine, who now works in Runnymede Borough Council, helping with translation for Ukrainian refugees. And I'd like to thank my team in my office, who have been incredible in supporting people in the process of the visa application scheme and many pieces of casework regarding to supporting refugees once they've moved into my constituency of Runnymede and Weybridge. And building on that spirit, I'd like to finish up in terms of my thanks by thanking the Right Reverend Bishop Kenneth Nowakowski, who is from the Ukrainian Catholic Eparchy of the Holy Family in London, who came to speak to community groups, my constituents, last week. Now, I don't know if members have heard him speak, but he is incredible. It is probably, without doubt, one of the best community speech events I've ever been to, where he spoke about, he's been centre of the refugee response from the start, and he spoke about the support he set up, he's given, lessons learnt, a cautious commentary on what he sees as the future. And there were 2 points that really sent a chill, I think. One was a chill, one was less so, as part of his speech, and I hope you won't mind me mentioning. One was when, in a visit to Ukraine recently, he went to a school, and one of the school children, I think it was a little boy, came up to him, very excited to see him, and said, come, you've got to see our bomb shelter. It's really cool. You've got to see our bomb shelter. That sort of sent a chill. I thought it, in a sense, it's also quite sweet, because it just shows the resilience of children and, you know, the excitement of, you know, how life changes and life adjusts in the context of conflict. And another thing that he mentioned during his talk was reflections on when people can start thinking about forgiveness. Where we are now, I think that's very difficult to contemplate. But of course, every war ends, things move on. And one of the things that we were talking about today, which I think is quite important, is the rebuilding of Ukraine, what peace looks like going forwards. Now, as I say, I cautiously say this to the House because I think it's a very difficult statement to make right now where we are and the pain that everyone's suffering. But again, I think needs perhaps thinking in the early stages in terms of what is the future that we want to have, what is the future we can start hoping for going forwards as this awful conflict comes to an end. And I'd like to thank all the people who came to the event that I hosted in my constituency, the community groups, the elected representatives, people who supported refugees across my constituency. Our communities are precious. My communities in Runnymede and Weybridge are, without doubt, the thing that makes Runnymede and Weybridge the best place on earth. In my view, I'm sure colleagues will say similar things about their constituencies. And we need to support our communities, and I think we also need to recognise just the incredible work that they do, and I think the response to...
Of course. I'm very grateful indeed. I wasn't intending to intervene in this debate, but I think he's made some very excellent points. I too attended a meeting of Ukrainian family sponsors 2 weeks ago in my constituency, and I think perhaps the thing I took away from there is the message that we can bring back to government to encourage government to do more to support and to encourage our fabulous sponsors to continue to provide that service. In many cases, we're coming to the end of the 6-month initial term, and in Warrington, in parts of Warrington, we have very high levels of Ukrainian families who are thinking about where they can live next, because the sponsors are having given up 6 months thinking about what they do next as well. Does my honourable friend agree with me that the government can take a more active lead on this in terms of supporting and encouraging sponsor families to continue?
I thank my honourable friend, the member for Warrington, for his intervention. It's almost as if he has had foresight on my speech, which I know he hasn't, because the point I was about to go on to was around the challenges in terms of when those sponsor-refugee relationships break down. I'll just finish my last point regarding communities, and then I'll come on to that section. And my last point was essentially that we have to really, we must all cherish our communities and the support we're giving, because otherwise I think there's something very special. If we don't fight to protect, and cherishing and thanking is part of it, we'll lose them before it's too late. And I think that's an important recognition I'm sure we'll all share. So yes, the point my final point that I wanted to make is, sadly, for a few months now, we've been hearing in my constituency of breakdowns in relationship between sponsor and refugee. This is getting more concerning as we approach Christmas. I think a lot of people, when very generously they offered to take part in the scheme, saw it as only a 6-month commitment. And I think it's important to recognise, those who can continue for 6 months, fantastic. Those who can't, fantastic for helping out. And I think there should be no animus in terms of what happens, and people who can't or feel they can't continue beyond the initial 6 months. My Runnymede Borough Council, I've had many conversations with their leader, Councillor Tom Gracie and the CEO regarding concerns about the matching process, and some refugees aren't able to be rematched, and Runnymede is going to give them homelessness support, essentially. So they will help rehouse refugees locally who can't be rematched. Now, of course, the concern there is that's going to put an additional burden onto local authorities, and I know the government's been very generous in the support to local authorities, but nevertheless, that will be a different challenge, particularly in the constituencies such as mine, where availability of affordable housing and affordable rents is very much at a premium. And the question I have to the government, to the minister, is in those cases where there's a refugee where the sponsorship has broken down, where they can't be rematched, and the state takes on the role in terms of effectively sponsoring them through homelessness provision. Bearing in mind under the Homes for Ukraine scheme as currently stands, the sponsor gets a monthly payment of about 350 quid. When the state then takes over effectively a state sponsorship role, could it be looked at the local authority getting that sponsorship payment in lieu of the sponsor who would have done so in the first place? Because that seems to be as a cost neutral, in effect, provision, something which is quite a premium at the moment, as always, in terms of supporting local authorities where that's broken down, so there's not undue pressure in terms of homeless provision. Thank you. Go on, just as before I said.
I'm really glad that the Honourable Member has raised this point, because it's a key one, and I wonder if he's also aware that currently it seems the Home Office is funding schemes like this from ODA, the foreign aid money, but they're only able to attribute that for the first year. So I'm very concerned that come February, all of the support that we're able to give to Ukrainian refugees here is going to come to an end. And I'm very interested to see if the Minister has any information that he can share with that about if the Treasury will actually step up and fund those people from that point forward. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Member opposite for intervention. I mean, looking back at the past year, at the incredible support that we've given to Ukrainians at all levels, I'm absolutely confident that the government will go forwards in making sure that we are doing their part. But equally, I would be very interested to know as well in terms of what are the specific plans in terms of how that looks going forward, given, unfortunately, where we are at the moment, it seems that this is going to be a substantially long war, is going to be displace people for a long period of time. And so to hear what the medium-term, long-term transition plans would be very interesting. Thank you.